All right, let's go. 6 games. It all starts Saturday at 4:30. The Texans time slot, the official Texans time slot. It's the Chargers at the Texans. Chargers favored by 2.5 here on the road in Houston. So I forget who put the tweet out, but this was 8 straight Houston playoff games where they get the Saturday afternoon time slot during the wild card round. Pretty awesome.
Every single time they've made the playoffs 8 times in the franchise's history since being created, and every single time they've been in the early Saturday slot.
The kickoff, the curtain jerker, as they say sometimes.
I don't like that term.
What?
At all.
That's what they.
It's just not a pleasant sounding term.
It's not.
I just don't like it.
Just say it's a showbiz term. But that's what the Texans.
It's like the way some people react to the word moist. It's
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Curtain jerker. Just no. Don't like
retire
it.
that.
Don't
we'll
like
retire
it.
that.
Don't want to hear it
from Check the Mic. By the way, real quick, I see you're wearing your merch. I just ordered my merch.
Well, you ordered some.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna get the Check the Mic hoodie.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna get my Steve mug. My family. I mean, they're all sold out because my family bought so many of them.
It's a real shame.
Or fans.
Yeah.
So yeah, got my Check the Mic merch coming in.
Nice. Yeah, this is. I like this one. This is the Stop the Shouty Show hoodie thing, but also extra stuff on the back.
I've got feelers out for someone who would be a great guest during Shouty Show time.
Yeah.
See if he or she responds.
Okay.
Anyway, Chargers, Texans. To me, the big storyline here, right? Texans, stumbling in to the playoffs, stumbling against good teams, right? Lost to the Chiefs, lost to the Ravens in week 16 and 17. They don't feel like they're, heading into the playoffs at a good time here, even though, they beat the Titans on Sunday. Cancel your phone.
It's somebody trying to offer a studio space.
You can answer it if you want.
I don't. Monologue. I mean, it's one of those things where you put in your details,
Did somebody watch the YouTube and call
No,
you
it's one of the ones I requested information for yesterday. But it's like, email me. I put my email in. The request is via text, email. I want digital communication back. I don't want you to phone me up. I don't want to do it. I don't want to talk to you on the phone until I discover whether or not your premises is suitable for what I'm looking for.
It's easier over the phone type of person.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you looking for in this Chargers-Texans game? And the Texans stumbling into the playoffs as a storyline.
Yeah, well, that I guess, can they kind of right the ship? But more, can CJ Stroud sort of individually take control of this and say, I'm going to shoulder the burden here? Because the offense overall has not been great. The knives are out for our friend Bobby Slowick. He's gone from flavor of the month last year. This time a year ago, he was a hot coaching candidate. He was being offered head coaching jobs. And now, his own team, his own fan base, trying to run him out of the building, right?
And he is still interviewing for jobs, right? That hasn't gone away.
But, things have fallen apart a bit on the offensive side. It's largely, I think, injury-driven. I mean, the offensive line was bad on paper heading into the season. The whatever witchcraft and hex the Shanahan offensive schemes had in limiting the impact of bad offensive lines has disappeared this year. I don't know quite why that is, if it's a one-to-one relationship with anything that's happened this year, but it's whatever it is, it's stopped being a thing, right? So what has been a bad offensive line on paper for a long time is a bad offensive line and is getting worse, or has been getting worse with all the injuries that they've had. So that makes everything worse. That takes away the run game to a large degree, particularly because it's the interior. So the kind of the losses are coming right up the middle quickly. It impacts what CJ Stroud can do. He's obviously had receivers go down. Stephon Diggs earlier in the year, Tank Dell with his horrendous injury as well. So that's a very pared down receiving core compared to what it was supposed to be. So generally the offense is it's struggling. But I think CJ Stroud in both college and the NFL has demonstrated in isolated games that he has had his best games in the most impactful situations, right? Playoffs, college football playoffs, against the best teams he's faced. That's when Stroud has been able to turn it on. Is that a repeatable skill, or is that just it's happened a couple of times and it's anecdotal and it doesn't actually matter this time?
Yeah, just to add some context to what you're saying as far as the offensive line goes, and then I'll respond to the Stroud stuff. I mean, 7th worst, just looking at PFF grade among tackles, guards, and centers. So you just add up the offensive linemen. Texans are 7th worst in the league, 5th worst if you just look at run blocking. Some of the other stuff I think that's popped up for this offense, and why I mean, there's reasons why an offensive coordinator is under fire, right? A lot of times it's, he runs it too much and too many first down this and this. But they've looked just bad when other teams have blitzed or run any sort of twist games up front, right? The number of times where there's a free rusher that is unaccounted for. And just, we have varying levels of NFL fans here, right? We have some NFL executives and all the way down to like newbie type of fans. So got to explain. Sometimes you just got to explain stuff simply. But the unblocked rusher isn't always on the blocking, right? A lot of times it's on the quarterback. That's, he's going to be hot off of that guy. You expect him to come, and then you're going to throw the ball generally behind him. But with Houston, it's not that. They have not had good blitz answers. They have not had, they have not picked up stunts very well. They've got the seventh worst pass blocking grade when blitzed. They've got the 5th worst EPA per play against stunts. And the Chargers don't do any of this stuff a lot, but they have all of these things in their bag, right? I think they do all the gap exchange stuff really well. I think that they do a nice job containing and compressing the pocket, and they do a nice job when needed with sim pressures and blitzes and different things like that. So I think those are the types of things that they can lean into. And ultimately, you're right. I mean, if those things aren't solved, it's like, all right, Stroud, go get him. And Jim Harbaugh had a great breakdown. He's recruited CJ Stroud, and Stroud went to Ohio State. Of course, Harbaugh was at Michigan, and he's saying the number of times that he stood in there, made a throw, knowing he was going to get hit, threw it accurately, was outstanding. And to me, that was what was most impressive about Stroud's game as a rookie, was the number of times, quick release, couldn't even finish his throw, and he's throwing a 15 to 20 yard deep out on point. And you just haven't seen that as much this year. And so when you go back through the Texans film, I think Bobby has dialed up some open scheme play throws that have been missed. I think the offensive line has struggled in picking up any sort of trickeration up front. And that's not just a personnel thing. That Bobby probably deserves some of the blame for that as well, right? From a preparation standpoint. And it feels like their pass protection has been attacked in certain ways. So that puts way more pressure on the quarterback who's in year 2, and he hasn't been great this year. He's been okay. Can he put it all together against this Chargers team this week, CJ Stroud?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big challenge. They have – this is a team where it makes perfect sense that the Chargers are favorites on the road, despite being a wild card team, because the Texans just do not look capable, or have not looked capable, of rising to this kind of challenge for quite a while. And I really think the only way of that happening, I don't see an obvious fix coming down the pipeline for offensive line woes, for a general lack of talent across the board, obviously outside of Nico Collins. But the only way of bridging that gap is CJ Stroud deciding, I'm going to play unreasonably better now that it matters. Doing that ability that Mahomes has demonstrated to just flip a switch and say, okay, now it's for real. I'm going to show up even more and better. That's the only way I think the Texans can do this.
I want to talk Justin Herbert for a minute here. Remember early in the season, not only was he battling injuries, wasn't really playing at the highest level, and that they were busting out J.J. McCarthy type of stat lines, right? 15 of 25 for 140 and no interceptions. Herbert ends up as PFF's number 4 graded quarterback, right behind the 3 most common MVP candidates this year, right? Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and Josh Allen. And then Herbert's right behind that trio. 23 touchdowns, 3 picks. We've talked a ton through the years about his ability to take care of the football, and that remained, but the big-time throw percentage went up. And look, the Chargers' biggest question mark to me coming into this year was the receiving core and how this offense was going to mesh, right? You've got Greg Roman coming in. He likes to run the ball, QB run game. Will they get enough from the pass game? At times this year, it felt like they didn't have enough weapons, but with Quentin Johnston coming off a 13-catch outing.
Who all of a sudden, thigh injury, and was downgraded, I think, downgraded out of practice effectively yesterday.
Oh, he's out now?
Well, no, not out of the game, but was downgraded out of a practice. All of a sudden, the thigh injury appears to be a potential problem for him.
Because that's where, his emergence, along with Ladd McConkey being uncoverable, right, which is, not expected, but, he was a really good pick at the top of the second round there. pass game's rounding into form here for the Chargers with Herbert running the show.
No, like Quentin Johnston all of a sudden became a big factor in this offense. So yeah, a thigh injury randomly popping up and throwing his game into jeopardy is definitely a concern for them.
Didn't practice yesterday with a thigh injury and illness.
Yeah, but the thigh injury thing, I think, like it wasn't sort of he was never going to practice. I think he was late downgraded to actually he's not going to be practicing today.
Great.
Yeah, so that's a potential problem for
And
him.
I'm not even saying that you would definitely be fully relying on him, but you're starting to get a little bit more from other weapons.
Yeah, I mean,
to complement what Ladd McConkey's done.
The thing about Quentin Johnston is, as much as he's not been good for the majority of his NFL career, he's big, strong, and fast, and you can't just ignore guys like that, even if they're not, viable or if they haven't been massively productive weapons. Like if you're focusing on Ladd McConkey, by definition, you are leaving a guy like Quentin Johnston on an island one-on-one with somebody, and you have to respect the fact that he's big, strong, and fast. And if you put, somebody that can't handle that out on an island against him, that's a potential big play anytime. Now, will he catch the big play when it's thrown his way? Who knows? But it's a risk, right? And it's a potential game-changing risk if you're going to take that and defend him that way. Now, if you take him out of the lineup completely, obviously that disappears, and you don't have to worry the same as you did when he was in there.
The other part, I think, from Houston's defense, the numbers are fascinating with Houston because they've given up some big plays, and I've rattled off all of the big plays that other teams missed.
Right.
Sometimes we call those unforced errors, right? And there's a lot of times EPA per play tells a really good story. It tells the totality of the plays, what happened. But a lot of times the defense doesn't deserve all the credit for it, right? The number of big plays that other quarterbacks have missed, not even under pressure. They haven't even necessarily been pressured. They've just missed these big throws. There's several of them. And so that's why the Texans actually have the lowest completion percentage allowed on 10-plus yard throws at 39%, which is interesting. It's a stat I like to look at, like how difficult our defense is making it to throw the ball beyond the sticks and down the field. And the Texans statistically are up there, but I can't get out of my head the number of busted coverages. And look, I know every team has those, but they just feel a little bit more significant with Houston. So they give you a couple opportunities per game. And if that's Ladd getting behind the defense, or if Quentin Johnston can play and he's getting behind the defense, how often will Justin Herbert be able to take advantage of those?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big factor. Like, it feels like this game could be a tight, low-scoring affair where both defenses are in the ascendancy. Equally, like, when Justin Herbert is your quarterback, we talked about him before being streaky and being able to catch fire and just being unstoppable. Stroud's the same. Like, he's capable of doing that as well. So it's a game. It's one of these weird games where it could be like 6-9 at the half, and then the second half explodes and we get, 40 more points in the game overall.
A couple individual matchups to watch. The Georgia connection. Kamari Lassiter at corner against Ladd McConkey on the other side, both Georgia guys. Lassiter brought him up a few weeks ago when they were playing the Dolphins. The idea that he ran 4.6 at corner, but 70 PFF grade, one of the better rookie corners this year, up there with a lot of other good rookie corners. He's had a nice season. Second rounder, despite the low 40. Joe Walt, who's been fantastic in pass protection for the Chargers, had to move to left tackle in last week's game, but going up against Denzel Hunter and Will Anderson, you got some good matchups up front there as well in this game. And then game flow wise, what you said as far as I could see it being tight, and then coming down to what happens in the second half. I think big time, high end storyline wise, Jim Harbaugh in what could have easily just been a rebuilding year for the Chargers, gets them to the playoffs, and Houston, after seemingly loading up on it was a young ascending team loaded up for a Super Bowl run. And for me, a couple weeks ago, I was saying, I still believe in Houston. They just haven't hit their ceiling yet. I've soured on them because I don't know if that theoretical ceiling actually exists for Houston. So I'm definitely lower on them than I was even just a few weeks ago as they headed into those games against the Chiefs and the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, I still think they're capable of high-end play, but I think it's very much contingent now on CJ Stroud just taking over and deciding, like, I'm not going to let the problems impact this game. I'm going to overcome them individually.
And Nico Collins, right? Nico's capable of putting together that 8-catch, 150-yard outing.
And I think that connection is capable of doing that, but that's a very difficult thing to ask it, to ask to happen in the playoffs against the better teams. Like, the Chargers have had one of the better defenses for the majority of this year. The nature of the game, offense is capable of doing that on any given occasion, but it's not really sustainable. Like, it's not a long-term game plan. I don't really imagine a world where even if Stroud does it in this game, I can't see him doing it 3-4 times straight and winning a Super Bowl doing that. I just think that's unrealistic and too difficult to ask him to do. But I can see it happening in a game. I mean, he could do it one time.
All right, man. Do you want to make picks?
Sure.
Chargers by 2.5 here. Over-under is 42.5. So that's from our friends over at FanDuel. 42.5, kind of low, especially for a dome game. And so what you described, maybe this, slugfest, low-scoring first half, or maybe things explode in the second half, certainly a possible game flow.
Yeah, I will go with the Chargers. That line, it's there for a reason. I just don't have confidence in the Texans.
The other thing I like to do at playoff time here, I'm also going to take the Chargers. If it's a chalk weekend in the AFC, meaning the Chargers, this is a 4 versus 5. The Chargers are favored, though. If the Chargers win, Bills and Ravens win, we get that epic divisional round Bills-Ravens matchup. But the Chargers go to Kansas City. So this, if you're the Chiefs sitting at home on bye, are the Chargers, not that there's a team you don't want to see, but this is probably the best game they could have. You Denver maybe.
The Texans is the easiest team they could face, I think. The Texans are the Steelers. The Chiefs win without even thinking about it.
Just because we saw it a couple weeks ago, and you assume that's going to stay the same?
For the Chiefs.
We just saw the Chiefs easily take care of the Steelers.
I think they
Texans
would anyway.
A couple weeks ago.
I think either of those two teams, I just don't think that they have what it takes to beat Kansas City.
But the division game,
both division games and Baltimore and Buffalo, I think, are at least live underdogs against Kansas City.
And remember, we reseed. So if Denver, the 7 seed, wins, they're automatically going to Kansas City.
Yeah.
If all the favorites win,
we've talked about
Chargers
it
or Texans
for half the season. I think Denver is a surprisingly difficult out for Kansas City, and the Chargers have played them tight as well. Like, those division games, I don't think are a joke if either one of them is the one that Kansas City ends up playing. And then obviously Baltimore and Buffalo are the two theoretical best teams in the AFC outside of Kansas City. So any of those four, I think, it's a test for Kansas City. Steelers, Texans, that feels like just a walkover.
Playoff game a couple years ago where Chiefs killed them.
Right.
All right, you, me, and Harry all taking the Chargers here by 2.5 on Saturday.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.